Okay, so today we're going deep on Elon Musk. And, it's a name everyone's heard. You've heard about Tesla, SpaceX, all the other stuff he's got going on. And I feel like everyone kind of has an opinion, right?
Oh, definitely.
Whether they love him or they hate him. Um, but the whole point of this deep dive is to try to step away from all that.
Yeah.
I mean, we all have our opinions, but let's just look at the facts of what he's doing, what he's done, and how it's affecting, not just these individual companies, but all these huge industries. Tech, space travel, AI, infrastructure, how we get around, like what is the Musk effect?
Yeah. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. Like, he's someone who just has such a wide-reaching influence. It's not just contained to one little corner of the world or the economy or whatever. He's really touching so many different things, and it's all kind of connected. So I think it's worth taking a step back and looking at it all as a whole, to see the bigger picture.
Right. Exactly. So to really understand that Musk effect, I think we should start at the beginning. Like, who is this guy? Born in South Africa in 1971. And even from a young age, he was this super intellectually curious kid, like computers, science, that whole world.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's something that comes through in all the sources we looked at. Like, he was self-taught in programming by the time he was, 12? Something like that. And just a huge reader, like devoured books on science, philosophy, science fiction, fantasy, just this real hunger for knowledge. Right?
Yeah, and you see that throughout his life.
Yeah.
That drive to learn, to push boundaries, and that hunger. So he ends up moving to the U.S., studies at the University of Pennsylvania, gets degrees in physics and economics. I mean, that in itself is kind of interesting, right? Like, you've got the hardcore science brain and the understanding of systems and, how things work on a larger scale.
It's that combination that I think really sets him apart. It's not just about the tech itself. It's about how it fits into the world, how it can be scaled up, made commercially viable. And you see that in his early ventures. So you have Zip2, which was essentially an online business directory. And this is like back in the early days of the internet.
Like the Wild West of the internet, right?
Totally. And then there's X.com, which later becomes PayPal. And those were huge successes in their own right. But if you look back now, they almost feel like stepping stones, like he was learning, building up to something bigger.
Yeah, they were like practice runs for what was to come.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I can build successful companies, I can disrupt industries, I can make a lot of money. Now what?
Exactly. And that now what leads us to the companies that really define the Musk effect. Tesla, SpaceX, Neuralink, and the Boring Company. And each one of these is tackling a problem that, for a long time seemed almost impossible to solve.
Like they were stuck. And he comes in with this totally different perspective and says, wait, what if we just rethink the whole thing?
Yeah. He's not afraid to challenge assumptions. And so with Tesla, for a lot of people, this is where the Musk effect became real, in their lives. It wasn't just some abstract tech thing. It was like, oh, wow, electric cars can be cool.
They can be sexy.
Right. Because for so long, electric cars were seen as kind of like, I don't know, golf carts.
Yeah, like something your grandma would drive to the grocery store.
Exactly. But Tesla comes along and says, no, no, no. Electric cars can be high performance, they can be luxurious, they can be stylish, and all of a sudden you have the Model S, the Model 3, the Model X, the Model Y, and these aren't just cars, they're statements.
They're like status symbols. And suddenly all the big car companies who had been kind of dragging their feet on electric vehicles, they're like, uh-oh, we need to catch up.
Tesla completely changed the game. And it wasn't just the cars themselves, it was the technology behind them, the whole ecosystem. They invested heavily in battery technology, pushing for better range, faster charging. And then there's the self-driving AI, which is still being developed, but it's this huge, ambitious project to basically gather data from millions of miles of real-world driving and use that to train their AI.
Yeah, and it's not just about cars, right? Tesla is also involved in solar energy, home energy storage, with the Powerwall, those solar roof tiles. It's like this whole vision of a sustainable energy future.
And that's where the gigafactories come in. These massive factories are all about scaling up production, not just of cars, but of batteries, solar panels, everything. It's like vertical integration on a massive scale.
He wants to control the whole process from raw materials to finished product. And that's a pretty bold move. So, okay, Tesla's shaking up the car industry and the energy industry. But then you got SpaceX, which is aiming for something even bigger, like changing how we think about space.
Yeah, their mission is to make space travel more affordable and accessible. And that's a huge shift. For decades, space was basically the domain of governments. It was expensive, it was risky, and SpaceX comes in and says, no, we can do this better, we can do it cheaper, we can open it up to everyone.
And the key to that is reusability, like the Falcon 9, the Falcon Heavy, these rockets that can launch, land back on Earth, and be used again. It's like mind-blowing when you think about it.
Because before, every rocket launch was basically a one-way trip. You spend billions of dollars and then the rocket just burns up in the atmosphere. But SpaceX figured out how to land them, refurbish them, and fly them again, and that drastically reduces the cost. And then you have the Dragon spacecraft, which was the first private spacecraft to dock with the International Space Station.
That was a huge moment. Like, it proved that commercial space travel could be a real thing. But then there's Starship, and that's where things get really wild. This is like the next level spaceship. Fully reusable, super heavy lift, designed for interplanetary travel.
Like Mars.
Mars, the moon, maybe even beyond. And, I mean, the scale of this thing is just massive.
Yeah, it's like something out of science fiction. And the goal is to eventually establish a self-sustaining colony on Mars. And that's a vision that I think really captures people's imaginations. It's like, wow, we could actually become a multi-planetary species.
And it's not just about Mars. SpaceX is also working on Starlink, which is this network of satellites that's supposed to provide internet access to basically the entire planet.
So it's like, they're tackling the biggest challenges out there, space travel, global internet, and they're doing it with this incredible combination of ambition, technical expertise, and just sheer will.
The Musk effect in space is all about making the impossible seem possible. Okay, so we've got Tesla, we've got SpaceX, but then there's Neuralink and the Boring Company. And these are like totally different fields. Like, one is brain-machine interfaces, the other's digging tunnels. What's the connection there?
I think the connection is Musk's willingness to take on problems that everyone else thinks are just too hard. Like with Neuralink, they're developing technology that can be implanted in the brain with the goal of treating neurological disorders.
Like paralysis, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's,
Bruh.
like really devastating conditions.
Exactly. And the potential is huge, but it's also incredibly complex. You're talking about brain surgery, artificial intelligence, material science. It's like cutting-edge stuff.
And the long-term vision is even wilder, right? Like merging human consciousness with AI.
Right. And that raises all sorts of ethical questions.
Mm-hmm.
But it's that willingness to push the boundaries, to explore the unknown, that I think is characteristic of the Musk effect. And then you have the Boring Company, which is focused on solving traffic congestion.
I mean, who hasn't been stuck in traffic and just wish they could teleport or something?
Right. And the Boring Company solution is tunnels, like underground highways. It's like, why haven't we been doing this all along?
It seems so obvious, but it's also incredibly difficult and expensive to build tunnels.
Mm-hmm.
But Musk's like, nope, we can do it. And then there's the Tesla bot, the humanoid robot that's supposed to do all sorts of tasks. And the Hyperloop, this idea for a super high-speed transportation system. It's like he's constantly looking for ways to improve things, to solve problems, to make the future better.
And he's not afraid to fail. Like, not all of his ideas pan out, but he keeps pushing forward.
Which is kind of inspiring in a way.
Right.
And of course, someone who's this ambitious, this in the public eye, is going to have his critics.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And there are legitimate criticisms. Like the work culture at some of his companies has been described as very demanding, very intense.
And the timelines he sets for his projects are often, let's say, optimistic.
To put it mildly, like Mars colonization by 2029.
Yeah, maybe not. But I think the point is he's trying to do things that have never been done before. And so there are going to be setbacks, there are going to be delays.
And it's important to be aware of those criticisms, to hold him accountable. But I think it's also important to acknowledge the positive impact he's having.
So if we had to define the Musk effect, what would it be?
I think it's a combination of vision, ambition, risk-taking, and a real belief in the power of technology to solve problems and improve the world.
And it's that combination that's led to the creation of Tesla, SpaceX, Neuralink, the Boring Company. And it's that combination that's inspiring people all over the world to think bigger, to dream bigger.
To believe that anything is possible.
So the question for you, listener, is this. What do you think about the Musk effect? Do you think it's ultimately a force for good? Or is there a downside to having someone with so much power and influence shaping the future? It's a question worth thinking about.
And one that we'll continue to grapple with as Musk's companies and his vision continue to evolve.
So thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the world of Elon Musk and the Musk effect. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible.